What's going on, guys? It's the final revelation. Today we're going to be talking about chemtrails. I know it seems like every time I make a video, it's always me telling you guys where I've been and stuff like that. And I honestly just want to put that for a different video. I feel like it's necessary to make this video, this topic on chemtrails. Like I said, I'll talk about all that other stuff in a separate video. But the reason why I wanted to talk about chemtrails today was because it seems like as the days go on, especially in 2018, I've been noticing a lot more and more. Maybe I just didn't pay much attention to them when I was a kid. That's probably it. But I would beg to differ that they are definitely spraying us a lot more, I would say, than they were even up until the late 2017. But as you can see here, like this little picture, this kind of goes to show what you pretty much see on a day-to-day basis. And people will say that those are just clouds, but it's just like those aren't clouds. Those are chemtrails. Those are chemicals being released into the atmosphere. This footage right here, you can see me at my school, because I'm here in California, but you could see here at my school, my college, that there's this plane just kind of flying by, and it's just releasing these long white cloud streams of looks like smoke or whatever, but that's not smoke, and those aren't contrails. Contrails are basically water trails, condensation trails, and condensation trails don't last hours or till a day, and they don't do things like this picture you see. Contrails do not do this. For any of the people that think chemtrails don't exist, or that it's just a conspiracy theory, look at this picture and tell me, how does that happen? Just by contrails, by water vapor. How does that happen? It doesn't. For those of you who don't know what chemtrails are, they are notably coined. It's notably coined as a conspiracy theory in which planes are spraying harmful chemicals into the atmosphere, which can cause a whole host of problems, such as people getting sick. Of course, that's like a given due to the chemicals, and weather manipulation. Chemtrails have been it's kind of been a thing for a while. I remember a time back when I was in high school, I'm not sure for any of you guys out there, but at least for me, I remember I had a history teacher, and I forgot what we were talking about. This is like 4 years ago. But, I was asking her, I was just like, yeah, so, or there was this one girl, she said, yeah, they're spraying chemicals into our atmosphere, and my history teacher, she was cool and everything, but she was just like, oh, don't, that's a conspiracy. There's no such thing as chemtrails. Chemtrails do not exist. And, of course, not knowing too much about it at the time, I mean, I knew what it was. I didn't really say anything, but it's just kind of like, here and now, you kind of have, I feel like there's just more than enough proof. Literally, you don't even have to do your research in terms of opening up a book to find out there are chemtrails in the atmosphere. I advise everyone to do research. Of course, I'm not saying don't, but I'm just saying you don't have to go as far as opening up a textbook to, to prove to someone that chemtrails exist. It's not a matter of it being a conspiracy. It's not a matter of it being an opinion. This is fact. Let alone, as I was just saying, it's observable fact. You go outside, and yesterday I put out a video, or I put it out early this morning, but yesterday I basically filmed a video in which I was showing chemtrails in the sky, and I was talking about and going into detail about how it feels like it feels like the weather is supposed to be cold, but it's just like whenever they spray these trails into the sky, it doesn't feel cold. It gets warmer. As the days go on, it gets warmer and warmer. And not only that, it's funny because when these chemtrails are released, everyone starts feeling a certain way. Yesterday we were sprayed heavily with chemtrails, and I kid you not, everyone that I know. Everyone in my house and my girlfriend, she doesn't, of course, she doesn't live with me, but you know, when she was at her house, she was just telling me about how lazy she was feeling, how tired she was feeling, right? And my parents, we were lazy and tired. We were just kind of in the house. I mean, you know, luckily it was a Sunday, so none of us had to work or anything like that. But still, like, we were just really lazy. We just didn't feel like doing anything. We felt drained and tired, and my mom was taking a nap, and me and my dad were just kind of on the couch talking, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But we felt lazy, and my girlfriend felt the same way, and I was just like, wow, how funny that we're all feeling the same way, and here we are with these trails in the atmosphere. Um, this is nothing new. I've been talking about this since my late years in high school. Like I said, not my mid years, early to mid years in high school. I didn't really talk too much about this because I didn't know too much about it. I've seen contrails. We've all seen contrails when the jet's going through and it's spraying, or it's not spraying anything, but it's just going through and it's just kind of like letting out that, kind of like that vapor, the water vapor going from the jet. But the chemtrail is obviously long lasting and it extends. As you can see here, for example, this is from howstuffworks.com, and it says, the second paragraph says, one of the more extreme theories says that the government is intentionally spraying people with harmful substances in order to experiment with the effects, or even to weed out the sick and elderly. Other conspiracy theories suggest the chemtrails are an attempt by the government at mind control and even sterilization. And they kind of like dismiss this. It even says in the next following third paragraph, I don't have it all here, but it says, however, many reputable scientists dismiss these theories on the grounds that such experiments would be of no real use. We have not seen any credible evidence that chemtrails exists. If we did see any evidence that governments were endangering their own citizens in the manner alleged in the chemtrails conspiracy, we would be eager to expose and stop any such activities. I mean, they kind of go around dismissing these things, but I mean, what evidence do you have that proves that chemtrails don't exist? I want to see that evidence. I mean, we have a load of evidence to prove that chemtrails do exist. But you see how this second paragraph really is about dismissing the fact, and this is what it's all about. They want people to be complacent. They want people to say, because that's how it is. The people are questioning, and they start watching videos like mine or other YouTubers, and they start questioning, like, hey, are chemtrails an actual thing? Is this what's really going on? So maybe they want to go do some research. Maybe they go on. So, you go to Google, you do, a little Google search, and they run into websites like this that dismiss it and say, oh no, these are just contrails, and if anything was happening, we would totally be on it. But I'm just like, no. Chemtrails are a thing. But that's what they want people to, that's how it is. People question things after a certain while, and then once they go do the research, the government's they've already got their articles pushed out, and not necessarily the government, but it's just like the people who have been indoctrinated, fed by the government. They're just like, well, okay, subconsciously they're defending what the government is doing, whether they know it or not. But so you do a research, people do research, and then they go back to their habit of sleeping and not wanting to take action because the government said so. And to me, it's sad that it has to happen this way. But I also want to take a look at the first paragraph. It says, a U.S. Environmental Protection Agency fact sheet on contrails explains that contrails, even long-lasting ones, are simply trails of condensation and that they are not harmful. However, conspiracy theorists have become suspicious that the contrails expelled from jets today are thicker and linger longer than they did in the past. So, while people accept that contrails are natural byproducts of jet engines, their suspicion is that the government has since used that excuse to put harmful substances in those trails, thereby creating chemtrails. In addition, conspiracy theorists latch on to anecdotal evidence that connect epidemics of flu-like symptoms to instances of chemtrails. Those who believe that there's something fishy about chemtrails have come up with several theories to explain what governments might be covering up. Right, because we're just making all of this up, right? We don't, we're just pulling this from our butt, and we don't know what, we have no clue of how the world works. And this is how, like I said, this is how they kind of want it to be. This is how it has to be for people who are actually wanting to go out and do research. You have websites like howstuffworks.com dismissing any kind of questions that you have and says, no, quiet down, sheeple. There is no such thing. There's no such thing as chemtrails. I tell you the truth. These are just long-lasting contrails. Like what? Like, these are long-lasting contrails. Last time I checked, people and the amount of people getting Alzheimer's and other certain diseases has, like, it's increased with just within the last, 50 years or so. I mean, where's the correlation? For something that has to happen, something has to have caused it. I'm speaking from, this is just how it is. People talk about how cancer cannot survive, for example, in oxygen-rich environments, and how people, more and more, have been getting cancer, right? Well, what if, the things that we see that we call contrails are being sprayed into the atmosphere? And I'm not just saying that it's just chemtrails. We have GMO foods, all these fake foods, especially the ones here in America. But I'm saying, if oxygen can't survive if cancer can't survive in oxygen-rich environments, then what do you think they're going to do? If they have this depopulation plan, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to poison the food, and if that's not enough, since it's not, they're going to poison the skies with acidic elements, with things that aren't supposed to be sprayed or inhaled and taken by the human body. So there you have it. I mean, that's just one example. But I feel like, this example that I'm talking about, as you can see here, I'm not sure if you guys can read it too well, but it says right here, and this is from I'm not sure how to pronounce this website. I'll probably leave it into the description of my YouTube, the description in the YouTube video. But it says right here, a lack of cellular oxygen equals cancerous cells. Dr. Otto Warburg was a German biochemist and winner of the 1931 Nobel laureate, I'm not sure if I said that right, in medicine for his discovery that cancerous cells respirate without oxygen. Dr. Warburg stated that the prime cause of cancer is the replacement of the respiration of oxygen in normal body cells by the fermentation of sugar. All normal body cells meet their energy needs by respiration of oxygen. That's very important. All normal body cells meet their energy needs by respiration of oxygen. So they need oxygen. Our cells need oxygen, whereas cancer cells meet their energy needs in great part by fermentation. He also hypothesized that cancer occurs when there is hypoxia, or a lack of oxygen at the cellular level, and stated that if a cell is deprived of 35% of its oxygen requirement for 48 hours, then that cell could turn cancerous. Only 5 to 10% of cancers are linked to genetic inheritance, while the other, it says right here, 90 to 95% are directly related to many other factors. And listen to this. Directly related to many other factors, including poor diet, get this one, toxic overload, and get another one of this, exposure to radiation. And it goes on to list everything else, smoking, alcohol consumption, obesity, chronic inflammation, chronic stress, a few viruses, all of which have the ability to compromise the immune system. But just that second paragraph, just this second paragraph alone, The other 90 to 95% are directly related to many other factors, including poor diet, toxic overload, exposure to radiation. I mean, I don't know, guys. I mean, do you think chemtrails is maybe exposing us to some kind of radiation? Do you think it's maybe toxic that we're being sprayed with all these chemicals? I don't know. It says literally that deaths from Alzheimer's has increased 50%. Deaths from Alzheimer's disease is on the rise in the United States, according to a new study from the Centers for Disease Control, or CDC. They have an awesome reputation. Researchers at the CDC found that in recent years, the rate of death from Alzheimer's disease increased by more than 50%, from about 16 deaths per 100,000 people in 1995 to 25 deaths per 100,000 people in 2014. And the number of people who died from Alzheimer's more than doubled during this period, from 44,536 deaths in 1999 to 93,541 deaths in 2014. Millions of Americans and their family members are profoundly affected by Alzheimer's disease. Dr. Anne Schuchat, the acting director of the CDC, said in a statement, as the number of older Americans with Alzheimer's disease rises, more family members are taking on the emotionally and physically challenging role of caregiver than ever before. These families need and deserve the support. Alzheimer's is a progressive brain disease, causing brain cells to die. There is no cure for the illness. That's what it says in this article. This is the illness is best known for causing memory loss, but it also has other debilitating effects on the body, possibly affecting people's ability to move and eat by themselves. There is no cure for the illness. So, when you put that into perspective, I mean, I like how they end these articles by saying there's no cure for the illness. When, I'm not saying that I know the exact cure, but I don't know about you, but maybe it has something to do with, not being poisoned and actually eating real food, not, Monsanto kind of food, if you guys looked into what Monsanto was all about. But it's sad when you hear about families, going through the emotional trauma of this, but this is the agenda that they have. This is what they want to happen. This is what they need to happen in order for the depopulation agenda to, move forward.
Aircraft making a condensation trail is very similar in many ways to when you go outside on a cold day and exhale, you create a condensation trail. That little cloud is a condensation trail. Now, if you take a 2-mile walk on a cold day and you can turn around and you can see your condensation trail tracking all the way back for 2 miles. That's how crazy it is to think that what we're looking in the sky is actually condensation trails.
The contrails, not the chemical, the contrails occur because of cold air, minus 30. It takes high altitude, around 30,000 feet plus. There's carbon dioxide and water vapor in that exhaust. That turns to ice crystals, and that's what you see, the white stream behind it. Those white crystals of ice warm up, dissolve, and the smoke goes away. And it never lasts more than a minute. What we're seeing now, and I first could not believe it, and I started looking at the skies, and these are not normal. They're not natural. There's something going on. I don't know who it is or why they're doing it. All I can testify is it's not natural and it's not normal. It's got to be some outside influence doing that. Thank you.
I'm here to give you testimony that chemtrails, they're not contrails, are indeed real. They're spraying almost every day. I watch the clouds and watch the spraying program going on. I want to tell you that we're in very great danger from the pollution that's coming down over us. And we've been led astray by the military-industrial complex, and they're responsible for the cloud's creation and weather manipulation programs. They're dark operations. That's why they're not out in the media.
I look around and I see people are starting to look up and see this. Many times I've spoken about chemtrails, and I get this blank look on my face. What are you talking about? I'm saying, look up. As a pilot, before I fly, I look up. And so, boy, they're really out there working.
When you look up at the sun and you see a white haze, that is aluminum floating in the air right now, and it's coming from the aircraft.
There's a huge amount of aluminum being found because these sprays have aluminum, strontium, barium, manganese. And there's a lot of argument that aluminum is very common to be found. But aluminum is only common in a bonded form. It's not common in a free form, and we're finding high rates of free aluminum in the soil, which is not natural.
The metal compounds that are being used are environmentally dangerous. We need to be monitoring them. We need to be testing them.
Okay, these previous guys, I've watched exactly what they do, and yes, they are correct. I've seen exactly the same stuff, so ditto marks on those. You want some figures? Okay, latest water test, tested the rain. 13,100 micrograms per liter of aluminum in the rain in 2013. Normally, it should be 0. So 13,100 is pretty damn much, folks. It used to be 0, then it was 100s in the 2000s, and then since 2010, it's into the 1,000s and the latest 13,100. In the snow on Mount Shasta, pristine Mount Shasta, 61,000 micrograms per liter, 4 times the amount that is found in the soil up there. Where in the hell is this stuff coming from if it's not coming from the soil?
We have clouds in the sky we've never seen before. Almost every day I'm seeing clouds I've never seen before. And NASA has been even named a few of these new clouds. It's really interesting, but NASA is a corporation. I want you to know that.
NASA has also conducted a research program in what they call metallized fuels. We're actually putting aluminum oxide right in the fuel because it has 2 atoms of aluminum and 3 atoms of oxygen. So during the combustion process, it releases all that oxygen and dramatically increases efficiency, but it leaves the aluminum in the air.
We got things coming from sky down, and it's a huge, huge problem. Because as it comes down, what happens is a couple of things. Is that it actually is in our air, we breathe it. And as we breathe it, it's actually going to go up through our nostrils, into our brain, easiest access to our brain frontal lobe. The contaminants that have been identified, which already been mentioned, are aluminum. Aluminum is the #1 free radical generator to the brain to cause early apoptosis, which is early death of brain, and it begins to set off the scar tissue, which we call the amygdalin, which is part of the chemical matrix related to Alzheimer's.
I'm a neurologist practicing in Reading for 17 years, and in the past 5 years, I've seen the number of patients with Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and other neurodegenerative diseases tremendously increased, almost quadruple.
I became interested in chemtrails about 8 years ago when I was in Hawaii, and the Hawaiians are really being very vocal about it. I concur about the increasing number of Alzheimer's. They have been able to take the aluminum and micronize it, which means it'll stay up longer. But it also means, and I don't know if any of you have noticed some metallic taste in your mouth when they're spraying, but you inhale that, it goes up through your cribriform plate and through your sinuses and into the brain.
As you heard, to spray nanoparticles, very small particles. These nanoparticles, they basically trigger a programmed cell death in the brain, and that is the ultimate path we see in Alzheimer's.
That's problem #1, because when we look at the Alzheimer issue, we say those are the old. The real problem is, and the real scare I have, is as I am a father of 2, I am a grandfather of 3. So the drama is our children. ADD started in the 70s. Autism was not on the radar. There was no documents, there was no information. It was 1 in 100,000 children. Today, what we have is 1 in 48 boys. I was part of the early group that was looking for aluminum in ADD and ADHD. And all of those children that started to develop those phenomena had high levels of aluminum. When we figured out protocols to detox them out, to free the body of those particular contaminants, what happened is that their brains came back. When we do this to the age, it doesn't come back as quick, but it will come back. But I'm seeing Alzheimer's in 56 years old. Back in the 70s, Alzheimer's when you were 80.
If you remember 8 to 10 years ago, there was this big move to get rid of aluminum from underarm deodorant because it would cause Alzheimer's. Look what they're doing to us now.
I want to give you a little bit of history on the background behind nanoparticles has been described before. A nanometer is 1/1000th of a meter. It's very small. In fact, if you have particles, say, that are 40 or 50 nanometers across, you can take and line 50 of them up next to a single red blood cell. These things are extremely tiny. They're pervasive.
The collapse and decrease of agriculture is something I worry about even more than the previous info about autism and Alzheimer's.
Believe me, I'm seriously concerned with what I'm watching. As a wildlife biologist, I've been watching the ecosystem collapse. When you lose all your stream organisms, when you have aluminum overload in your streams, you're killing your microbial bacteria and you're disrupting the entire ecosystem. So it goes way beyond just a little bit of pollution. How did Monsanto know to create aluminum-resistant plants? I don't think I've heard anybody ask that question. Okay.
Insects. I've done studies in Siskiyou County. They're at 20% of normal. The aquatic insects basically made a nosedive in 2006 to about 20% of normal. So far this year, I've sampled 200 trout stomachs. 98% of them are empty. So sorry about the trout fishing, fellows. The mayflies, stoneflies, dipterus, and caddisflies are damn near gone. The terrestrial sampling is down to about 20% of normal, except for pest species like ants. We're seeing a loss of the major bird species, and as the gentleman said, the ecosystem is unraveling, and Audubon's been telling you that for years.
The materials that are going into the environment right now, aluminum oxide nanoparticles and barium nanoparticles, these just happen to be the same materials that they use in nanothermate explosives. And so when this stuff settles down out of the air into the environment, it is small enough to be absorbed through the root structure of the trees in the forest. And so when there's a forest fire, and there will be a forest fire, those fires burn dramatically hotter. The point is that the cost of firefighting, the cost in the healthcare system have nearly doubled in the last 10 years. The amount of acreage is lost because of fires. The impact on human health is dramatic.
I personally tested water and aluminum, and I found aluminum had 47 times the normal expected amounts. Strontium had 10 to 20 times the amounts. Barium was 20 times. This is what the stuff looks like here. I collected, it looks, most people just think it's a cobweb, but I tested it, it has outrageous amounts of barium, strontium, and aluminum, but they destroy the sample, so I'm not letting this get away from me.
You know, these tests are international in scope. We're seeing this all over the world, guys. Okay, pH of acid soils is 20 times more alkaline. The aluminum in the soil has doubled in the last 10 years. The rain normal was 5.6. It's 20 times more alkaline. Aluminum blocks essential nutrients. I am unable in my garden to restore normal pH, and that's because nanoparticles are now in the circulatory systems of both plants and humans.
The Air Force conducted a study starting in 1993. It was called In Vitro Toxicity of Aluminum Nanoparticles in Rat Alveolar Macrophages. That's a real fancy way of saying testing the effect of aluminum nanoparticles on the white blood cells in the little air sacs in your lung, the alveoli. And what they found in this 8-year study was that these particles, when you're exposed to long enough, it suppresses the ability of your white blood cells to defend you from airborne infections coming into your lungs. So it suppresses your immune system. But they also found that these same particles, once they get into your system, they can actually go through the barrier in each one of the cells. They get inside the cells, and these particles can actually suppress the ability of mitochondria, which are in the cells that help to gobble up toxins and things that would be harmful to the nucleus and the reproduction process of the cells in your body. These processes are suppressed, and so essentially by breathing this material in, your immune system is dramatically suppressed.
I wrote to the federal government because Air Force wrote a book, and on the first page of the book they said, we're going to control the weather by the year 2025. I asked them, what are they doing spraying these chemicals on the public? I said, there's violation of United States Code 50 USC 1520, which prohibits the American government from experimenting on the U.S. citizens with chemical agents. I said that law also requires who's ever experimenting, when the federal government does it, that they have to report to Congress within 30 days. They wrote back, they said they don't know what I'm talking about. We have enough evidence that there's a spraying going all over the place.
We were warned about the takeover of our freedoms by the military-industrial complex by both Eisenhower and Kennedy. They're gaining traction on us, folks. We are in trouble more than just a spraying program.
All I can say is it's about time we get up in arms about this, because it is affecting our health. It's high time that we as citizens of this great country take action.
Board of Supervisors in Suffolk County, New York, they outlawed geochemical engineering. Hawaii passed an ordinance prohibiting geochemical engineering. I urge you to bar geoengineering in Shasta County and pass an ordinance. At least ask some damn questions. What the hell is all this aluminum doing here? Why are the trees dying, fishes dying? Why is there Alzheimer and aluminum spiking? And why are these fibers on the ground here in Shasta County? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marmon.